At 9:02 on the morning of our mandatory final assessment, 63 students were standing in the wrong building while I sat alone beneath the white glare of examination room 4B, listening to the second hand of the wall clock scrape its way toward the hour. My name was Elise Marlowe, and for 2 years my cohort had treated me like a living timetable. They did not ask the university when lectures changed, where labs had moved, or whether an assessment had been shifted. They asked me. At first, I had thought it was flattering. By the end, I understood it was convenience wearing the mask of friendship. The invigilator checked the empty rows, checked me, and checked the door again. There should be 64 candidates, she said. I placed my student card on the desk and tried to keep my hand still. Outside, somewhere across campus, phones were already exploding with messages I could not see because mine had been sealed in a clear plastic bag. At 9:04, the chief examiner entered, whispered to the invigilator, then stared directly at me as though I had caused a natural disaster. "You're the only one here?" she asked. I nodded. That was when the first pounding hit the locked door. Not a polite knock. A furious, double-fisted slam that rattled the glass panel. A muffled voice shouted my name from the corridor. Then another. Then 20 more. "Elise. Open the door. Tell them we were sent to West Hall." This is her fault. I looked down at the official timetable I had printed 3 weeks earlier. The line was highlighted in yellow. Final Integrated Assessment. East Clinical Building. Room 4B. 9 a.m. sharp. The doors had closed at 9. I had refused to send anyone a screenshot. Now the whole cohort had missed it. 3 weeks earlier, no one would have believed that a timetable could ruin 63 academic records, expose a student representative, and force the faculty to investigate the most popular person in our year. Back then, I was still known as Calendar Girl, a nickname Serena Vale had invented during first semester. Serena was our elected cohort representative social committee chair and the kind of woman who could enter a room 10 minutes late and somehow make everyone else feel rude for beginning without her. She had glossy dark hair, an effortless smile, and a talent for remembering people only when she needed something from them. I was the opposite. I arrived early, color-coded everything, saved every announcement, and checked every timetable update against the student portal before adding it to my planner. My system began because I worked evenings at a pharmacy and could not afford to miss shifts or classes. It continued because our university's scheduling platform was unreliable. Rooms changed without warning. Lectures appeared in one tab, but vanished in another. Assessment dates were sometimes buried in unit guides, sometimes posted in announcements, and sometimes added silently to individual calendars. After I caught 3 changes that everyone else missed, people started messaging me. At first it was harmless. "Elise, what room are we in?" "Elise, is pathology online?" "Elise, when is the simulation?" I answered because it took seconds.
Soon they stopped checking for themselves.
Serena created a group chat called Ask Elise Before You Panic, which sounded affectionate until I realized it had trained 60 people to panic directly at me. I became the unpaid administrative department for students who would not read their own emails. If I took more than 5 minutes to respond, someone tagged me again. If I made a mistake, even a tiny one, they acted as though I had altered the university calendar personally. The first time that dependence turned ugly was during our pharmacology practical. I had sent Serena a cropped screenshot showing the lab had moved from Building C to Building F. She reposted it without asking, but she cropped it badly. My full name, student number, work placement code, and a line noting my approved exam adjustment were visible at the top. Within an hour, people were asking why I received extra reading time and whether I had some kind of condition. I had never discussed the adjustment because it followed a documented processing issue caused by an old concussion, and I did not want to explain my medical history to classmates who barely knew my birthday. I messaged Serena privately and asked her to delete the image. She responded with a laughing emoji. "Nobody cares that much, babe." By lunch, someone had edited the screenshot into a joke and posted it in another chat. The caption read, "Calendar Girl gets bonus minutes." Serena insisted she had not made the joke, as though that erased her decision to expose the information. When I confronted her after class, She tilted her head and lowered her voice into the gentle tone she used when she wanted witnesses to think she was reasonable. "You're overreacting. I was helping everyone." I told her helping people did not give her permission to publish my personal details. She smiled, but the smile did not touch her eyes. "Then maybe don't make yourself the person everyone relies on." That sentence stayed with me because it was both an accusation and a warning. She was telling me that my usefulness belonged to the group, but any harm caused by that usefulness belonged to me. I stopped sending screenshots after that. I still answered simple questions when I had time, but I directed people to the portal and copied official links instead of sharing my calendar. The reaction was immediate. Students who had never invited me to lunch suddenly called me difficult. People who ignore my messages unless they needed a room number complained that I was withholding information. Serena made little jokes during lectures. "Careful, don't ask Elise what day it is. That might be confidential." Everyone laughed because cruelty is easiest when it arrives dressed as humor. My closest friend, Priya, told me to leave the group chat. I almost did, but group projects and clinical notices moved through it, and I worried that disappearing would make things worse. So I muted it and watched the messages accumulate. What surprised me was how quickly Serena stepped into the space I left. She began posting schedule summaries every Sunday night. They were beautifully formatted, full of emojis, and often wrong. She listed tutorials that had been canceled, confused East Hall with East Clinical, and once sent half the cohort to a lecture that had moved online. Each time, she blamed the system. "Uni scheduling is chaos," she would write. No one mocked her. No one demanded compensation for the bus fare they had wasted. They thanked her for trying. That was when I understood the difference between being liked and being useful. Serena was allowed to be wrong because people enjoyed her. I was expected to be perfect because people used me. The mandatory final assessment appeared on a rainy Monday in late October. It was called the Integrated Readiness Verification, a title so bland that most students assumed it was another feedback survey. It was not. Hidden inside the updated unit guide was a statement explaining that the assessment combined clinical reasoning, medication safety, and emergency response decisions. Attendance was compulsory. A passing mark was required to progress into placement. Missing it without approved special consideration would result in a fail for the unit, regardless of the student's other grades. The assessment had been mentioned briefly at orientation, but no date had been announced. Then, without ceremony, it appeared in our individual timetables for Friday, November 21st at 9 a.m. in East Clinical Building, Room 4B. I noticed because I checked my timetable every morning before work. I printed the update, added it to my planner, and opened the group chat to see whether anyone had mentioned it. Nobody had. Serena's weekly summary listed Friday as a self-directed study day. I stared at that line for a long time. My first instinct was to correct her. My second was to remember the edited screenshot, the jokes, and her warning that I had made myself responsible. Instead, I typed, "Everyone should check their official timetable and updated unit guide. There's an important change for Friday." I did not name the assessment. I did not give the room. I gave them exactly what adults at university should have needed, a warning and the official source. The message sat unread for 11 minutes. Then Serena replied, "Mystery Queen returns." A few people added laughing reactions. Someone wrote, "Can you just tell us instead of making it a treasure hunt?" I responded, "It's in your individual timetable. I'm not sharing screenshots anymore because my private details were reposted last time." That should have ended it. It did not. Serena wrote, "Nobody is asking for your medical records. Crop it properly." I could feel my pulse in my jaw. Priya messaged me privately, "Do not send her anything." In the main chat, 20 students were now asking what had changed. I repeated, "Please check your portal. This affects progression." That phrase shifted the mood. People began logging in, but the scheduling platform was slow that evening, and several students claimed their calendars would not load. Instead of trying later or reading the unit guide, they turned toward me. Serena sent a direct message. "Send me your timetable and I'll distribute the important part."
Y en suara, no.
The official information is available to every student. She called me immediately. I let it ring. She called again. When I finally answered, she did not say hello. "What is wrong with you?" she asked. I told her nothing was wrong with me. She said I was punishing the cohort over an old joke. I reminded her that the screenshot had contained private information. "Fine," she snapped. "Then tell me the date and room." I said, "Check your timetable." There was a pause, and in that pause I heard something I would remember later. The faint clicking of a keyboard. Serena was already logged in. She could see the information. She did not need my timetable. She needed me to become responsible for whatever happened next. The next morning, the faculty emailed the entire cohort. The subject line was clear: mandatory final assessment, attendance required. The message stated the date, time, building, room, door closing policy, identification requirements, and consequences of absence. It was sent to university addresses, posted as an announcement, and added to the learning platform. By any reasonable standard, the university had communicated enough. Yet by lunchtime, Serena had created confusion where none existed. She posted a screenshot of an older draft schedule showing final integration activity, West Hall, 10:30 a.m. The screenshot looked official because it had the university logo, but the footer date was from August. "I spoke to someone in admin," she wrote. "The portal entry is a placeholder. Final is at West Hall, 10:30. Don't stress." I read the message twice. Then I replied, "That document is outdated. The official email says East Clinical at 9 o'clock. Serena responded within seconds. The email was automated before the venue update. Asked who in admin had confirmed that. She wrote, "I'm the cohort rep, Elise. I have contacts." People began thanking her. Some complained that the university was incompetent. Others deleted the 9 a.m. event from their personal calendars and replaced it with Serena's version. I posted one final message: "I will be attending the time and place listed in the official email and my current timetable. Please verify independently." Serena reacted with a thumbs up and wrote, "Do what makes you comfortable." It was a masterful sentence. She made official compliance sound like anxiety and her unsupported claims sound like confidence. That afternoon, I went to the faculty office in person. I did not trust myself to keep arguing online, and I wanted confirmation. The receptionist checked the assessment database and said, "East Clinical, room 4B, 9 o'clock. Doors close at 9. No late entry." I asked whether there had ever been a West Hall booking. She frowned and searched again. There was a provisional venue in August, but it was never final. I showed her Serena's message without naming her. The receptionist's expression tightened. "Tell your classmates to follow the current notice." I asked whether the faculty could send another announcement. She said they had already sent one but would forward my concern to the unit coordinator. 30 minutes later, another email arrived. "Correction of misinformation. Final assessment details unchanged." It explicitly warned students not to rely on unofficial schedules or screenshots. For a moment, I believed the problem was over. Then Serena posted a voice note. Her tone was calm, faintly amused. "Guys, I know everyone is nervous. The second email is standard liability language because someone has been harassing admin. We are still confirmed for West Hall at 10:30. I'll be there early. Please stop spiraling." The word "someone" was aimed at me, and everyone knew it. A student named Marcus replied, "Elise, did you seriously complain to faculty?" Another wrote, "Why are you trying to make this harder?" Priya called me and said, "This is insane. They have 2 official emails." I told her to attend East Clinical. She hesitated. "I believe you," she said, "but Serena sounds so sure." That frightened me more than anything. Priya was intelligent, careful, and usually skeptical. Yet confidence was beginning to outweigh evidence. On Wednesday, our last lecture before the assessment, Professor Bell stopped at the end of class and reminded us to arrive at East Clinical by 8:40 on Friday. Half the room looked at Serena. She raised her hand and asked, "Has the venue change to West Hall been reversed?" Professor Bell looked confused. "There is no venue change." Serena smiled politely. "I was advised by administration that the assessment was relocated." Professor Bell said, "Then you were advised incorrectly. Follow the official notice." That should have crushed the rumor. Instead, Serena waited until he left and said, "He's not the assessment coordinator. They never tell sessional staff anything." Several students nodded. I stood, packed my notebook, and decided I was done.
You all heard him, I said.
The room quieted because I rarely spoke loudly. You received 2 emails. Your timetable says East Clinical. The unit guide says East Clinical. The lecturer just said East Clinical. I'm not discussing it again. Serena leaned against the desk and crossed her arms. Nobody asked you to. I looked at her. You asked me for my timetable. She smiled. And you refused, which is fine. We found the correct information without you. There it was, the trap laid openly. If East Clinical was correct, she would claim she had always intended to update everyone. If West Hall was correct, she would say I had tried to mislead them. If anything went wrong, my refusal would become the story. I turned to the cohort. Check for yourselves, I said. Do not follow me. Do not follow Serena. Follow the university. Then I left. The night before the assessment, the group chat became strangely quiet. Usually, before a major exam, it filled with panic, mnemonic charts, and people begging for leaked questions. That Thursday, there were only a few messages. At 8:17 p.m., Serena posted a photo of West Hall with a caption, "See you tomorrow, 10:30. She was standing in front of the building, smiling, holding a takeaway coffee. The image felt staged, almost ceremonial. I wondered why she had gone there at night. Priya sent me a screenshot of a smaller private chat I was not in. Serena had created it for confirmed attendees and told everyone to ignore my messages because I was trying to embarrass her after losing influence. 58 students had reacted with a heart. Priya wrote, "I think they're all going to West Hall." I replied, "Then tell them to read the email." She said she already had. They accused her of being my messenger. A minute later, my phone rang from an unknown number. It was Daniel, one of the quieter students in our year. "Elise," he whispered, "where are you going tomorrow?" I told him East Clinical. He asked whether I was absolutely certain. I said, "No one should be certain because of me. Be certain because the university told you 3 times. He exhaled. Serena says she has written confirmation. I asked if he had seen it. He said no, then asked to see it. He went silent. She'll think I don't trust her. I almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. This is a final assessment, I said. You are allowed to distrust anyone who refuses to show evidence. At 11:46 p.m., Serena messaged me privately for the last time. You can still fix this. I stared at the words. Fix what? I replied. She wrote, send me your timetable. I'll compare it to mine. I answered. You have had access to your timetable all week. 3 disappeared, vanished, then appeared again. Mine is blank because of the system error. I knew that was unlikely, but I offered a solution. Forward the official email to the coordinator and ask for confirmation. She responded, stop being robotic. People are going to fail because you're being petty. My fingers shook over the screen. I wanted to write a long defense. I wanted to list every notice, every warning, every time she had chosen drama over facts. Instead, I typed one sentence. People will not fail because I kept my private timetable private. She sent a laughing emoji then, we'll see. I took screenshots of the exchange and emailed them to myself. I did not know why. Perhaps some part of me already understood that Friday would not end with an exam. Before sleeping, I set 3 alarms, placed my printed timetable inside a clear folder, and wrote the building name on a sticky note even though I knew it by heart. East Clinical. Room 4B. 9 o'clock. I slept badly and dreamed that the campus kept rearranging itself, doors sliding into walls whenever I approached them. Friday morning arrived bright and windless. I reached East Clinical at 8:21. The foyer was empty except for 2 invigilators carrying sealed boxes. My stomach dropped. For one irrational second, I wondered whether Serena had been right. Then I saw the assessment sign taped beside the lift. Integrated Readiness Verification, Level 4. I took a photo, sent it to Priya, Daniel, and the main group chat and wrote, Assessment signage is up at East Clinical. Doors close at 9 o'clock. The message showed delivered, then read by dozens. No one replied. Priya called me at 8:34. Music and voices echoed behind her. We're at West Hall, she said. Serena says buses are coming to transfer us. I stopped walking. What buses? Priya lowered her voice. She says the faculty knows the building mix-up affected everyone. I told her there was no mix-up. Leave now. It's 12 minutes across campus if you run. Priya said Serena had asked everyone to stay together, so the faculty could not penalize the group. That was the first moment I realized the absence was not an accident. Serena was building a collective defense. One student missing an exam looked irresponsible. 63 students missing an exam looked like institutional failure. She needed them in the wrong place, together, photographed, and convinced they had been misdirected. Priya, I said, get out of that building. She whispered, they'll hate me. I answered, they will hate you more if you let them fail. The line went dead. At 8:43, Serena posted a video in the main chat. She stood in West Hall surrounded by students, speaking in a voice loud enough to carry over the crowd. We are all here at the confirmed venue. Faculty has been notified. Nobody leave, because splitting up weakens our case. The camera swept across familiar faces. Some waved. Some looked uncertain. Daniel was near the back, staring at his phone. Priya was not visible. I typed, this is not the confirmed venue. I am inside East Clinical with the invigilators. Leave now. Serena deleted my message. I posted again. She removed me from the group chat. For a second, the screen went blank, and the silence felt physical. I called Priya. No answer. I called Daniel. No answer. I called the faculty office and explained that almost the entire cohort was at West Hall. The administrator sounded stunned. Why? She asked. I said, they were told the venue changed. She asked by whom. I looked at Serena's private message. You can still fix this, and said, the cohort representative. The administrator put me on hold. At 8:52, the chief examiner entered the room and asked whether I knew where the others were. I told her. She looked as if I had announced they were on another continent. We sent multiple notices, she said. I agreed. Can you delay the start? She shook her head. The assessment involved secure materials and external moderation. The doors would close at 9. At 8:57, the first students began running across the courtyard below. From the 4th floor window, I could see them cutting between buildings, bags bouncing against their backs. Priya had left West Hall and convinced a handful to follow. The lift was too slow, and the stairs were on the far side of the foyer. At 8:59, the invigilator instructed me to take my seat. I could hear feet hammering up the stairwell. The second hand reached 12. The chief examiner closed the door and turned the lock. 3 seconds later, someone hit it from outside. Priya's voice shouted, please, we were here. The examiner did not move. More students arrived, breathless and frantic. The pounding grew. Someone called my name. Another screamed that I had known. I sat alone in the first row while 63 people argued in the corridor. The examiner read the instructions into a room of empty desks. My eyes blurred, but I forced myself to focus. The first page presented a medication error in an emergency ward. I read it 4 times before the words made sense. Outside, security arrived. Voices rose, then receded as the cohort was moved away from the door. The silence that followed was worse. It felt like the entire building was holding its breath. I completed the assessment in 92 minutes. When I handed in my paper, the chief examiner said quietly, you did the correct thing by attending according to the official notice. I wanted that sentence to feel like protection. Instead, it sounded like the first line of a statement I would have to repeat for months. The cohort was waiting in the foyer when I came downstairs. No one spoke at first. They formed a loose circle around me, faces pale from anger and fear. Serena stood at the center. She had removed her coat and tied her hair back, as though preparing for a performance. There she is, she said. Marcus stepped forward. Why didn't you tell us the room was definitely East Clinical?
I stared at him.
I did. He said I had been vague. I reminded him of the official emails, Professor Bell's announcement, my photo of the sign, and the message telling them to leave West Hall. Another student snapped, "You could have just shared your timetable from the beginning." The accusation spread through the group because it was easier than accepting that they had ignored every reliable source. Serena lifted one hand, calming them. "Let her speak." I looked directly at her. "Show them the written confirmation you said you had." Her face did not change, but her eyes sharpened. "I spoke to administration."
"Who?" I asked.
"I'm not discussing staff names in public." "Then show the email." She smiled sadly, as though I had disappointed her. "This is exactly what I mean. You care more about proving me wrong than helping your cohort." Priya pushed through the circle. Her cheeks were streaked with tears. "She did help us," she said. "She told us to leave. Serena told us to stay." The group shifted. Serena turned toward Priya. "Because we were trying to protect everyone." Priya shook her head.
"No."
"You were trying to make sure everyone missed it with you." That sentence split the crowd open. Daniel stepped forward next. He held up his phone and said he had asked Serena at 8:30 to show the confirmation. She had refused and told him that anyone leaving West Hall would be reported for undermining the cohort's special consideration claim. Serena laughed. "Reported to whom?" Daniel's voice trembled. "You said you would tell the placement office we were not team players." A murmur rolled through the foyer. Serena looked around as if searching for the version of the room she usually controlled. "I was under pressure," she said. "I was trying to prevent panic." I asked again for the evidence.
"This time," she snapped.
My portal did not load. I reminded her that I had heard her typing when she called me on Monday. Her expression flickered. Only for a second, but it was enough. "You were recording me?" she asked. I said no. "Then you have nothing." The word nothing landed strangely. It was too confident, too prepared.
She was not defending a mistake.
She was measuring evidence. Before I could answer, the associate dean entered the foyer with 2 administrators and campus security. She instructed everyone to stop discussing the incident and check their email for an emergency meeting scheduled that afternoon. Then she looked at Serena. "Ms. Vale, please come with us now." Serena's face finally changed. Not fear. Fury. She turned toward me as she was led away and mouthed, "You did this." I almost believed her because the whole cohort was staring at me as if my refusal to surrender one screenshot had started the chain reaction. But then Priya took my hand and whispered, "No."
She did.
The emergency meeting began at 3 o'clock in Lecture Theater A. The associate dean stood at the front beside the unit coordinator, the examinations manager, and a faculty lawyer. No one sat near me except Priya and Daniel. Serena's chair, in the front row, was empty. The associate dean explained that the assessment could not be reopened, that attendance records showed 1 student had arrived before the deadline, and that 63 had not. A wave of anger swept through the room. She raised her hand. "Before anyone assigns blame, understand this. The university sent 3 written notices, posted an announcement, updated individual timetables, and provided a verbal reminder in class. We have also confirmed that no authorized staff member changed the venue to West Hall." Someone asked whether we had all failed. The lawyer answered that the faculty would investigate potential misinformation and determine whether affected students qualified for a supplementary assessment. That word, potential, caused shouting. Marcus stood and said the cohort had relied on its elected representative. Another student said the scheduling platform had been confusing. The examinations manager replied, "Confusion does not explain ignoring repeated corrections." Then the associate dean displayed a timeline on the screen. Monday, 6:02 p.m., timetable updated. Tuesday, 8 a.m., mandatory email sent. Tuesday, 2:14 p.m., misinformation correction sent. Wednesday, 11:52 a.m., verbal reminder delivered. Friday, 8:22 a.m., photograph of correct signage posted by a student. Friday, 8:43 a.m., cohort representative instructed students to remain at an incorrect venue. The room went silent at the final line. They did not name Serena, but they did not need to. The associate dean then asked whether anyone possessed messages, recordings, or screenshots relevant to the investigation. Phones emerged across the theater. Students who had ignored evidence all week now became eager archivists. They submitted Serena's posts, the private chat, the video from West Hall, and her threats about reporting anyone who left. I submitted my conversation with her, including the message saying people would fail because I was petty, and her final words, "We'll see." The faculty lawyer asked me to remain afterward. When the room emptied, he requested a formal statement. I told the story from the beginning, including the earlier screenshot that exposed my private adjustment. He asked whether that incident had influenced my refusal to share my timetable. I said yes. "Did you withhold assessment details as retaliation?" he asked. I felt anger rise, but I answered carefully. I did not withhold them. I told everyone to check the official timetable, warned that the change affected progression, corrected the false venue, posted a photo from the correct building, and called students directly. I withheld my personal timetable document because it contained private information. He nodded and wrote something down. Why not crop it? I looked at him. Because the university had already distributed the same information without my medical details attached. For the first time that day, someone almost smiled. "That is a fair answer," he said. The investigation lasted 9 days. During those 9 days, the cohort turned on itself. Students left Serena's private chat, then rejoined to collect evidence, then leaked screenshots from both sides. People who had mocked me began sending apologies that sounded suspiciously like requests for help with their statements. "Sorry, things got intense. Can you confirm what time you warned us?" "I always believed you, but I was scared to go against the group." "Do you have the email where faculty corrected the venue?" I answered factual questions but refused to become their defense coordinator. Priya stayed close, carrying guilt because she had remained at West Hall until 8:54. She had reached the 4th floor door seconds late. "I knew you were right," she told me one afternoon. "I just didn't want everyone to think I chose you over them." I said, "You were not choosing me. You were choosing evidence." She covered her face. "That sounds obvious now." Daniel revealed that Serena had contacted several students individually the night before, insisting the assessment was easier to defer if the entire cohort missed it. She had told one student the faculty could not fail everyone. She told another that a supplementary exam would give them more study time. The pattern was becoming clear. Serena had not misunderstood the schedule. She had engineered a mass absence because she was unprepared and believed collective misconduct would be too large to punish. The crucial evidence came from an unlikely place, West Hall's booking office. Serena had reserved a seminar room there under the Student Association account on Thursday afternoon. The booking description read Cohort Final Assessment Holding Room. Security footage showed her entering the building at 7:58 Thursday evening to take the photograph, she later posted. More damagingly, email records showed that she had opened all 3 official assessment notices. Her portal access log showed she viewed the correct timetable repeatedly, including at the exact moment she claimed her system was blank. The faculty also recovered an email she had sent to herself from a secondary address, formatted to resemble an administrative confirmation of the West Hall venue. She never posted the full email because the sender address would have exposed it. Instead, she told students she had written confirmation and relied on her reputation to fill the gap. When the associate dean interviewed her, Serena first blamed a portal error, then a staff member she could not identify, then me. She claimed my refusal to share my timetable had created uncertainty. The investigator asked why she had not followed the official timetable on her own account. According to the summary later released to the cohort, she had no answer. The entire scheme had rested on a simple calculation. People trusted her confidence more than documents, and if everyone failed together, the university would surrender. I was called to testify at Serena's disciplinary hearing on a Tuesday morning in a room with no windows. She sat across the table with a student advocate and 3 folders arranged perfectly in front of her. For the first 20 minutes, she did not look at me. Her advocate argued that the university's scheduling system had a documented history of errors and that Serena had acted in good faith to protect students from contradictory information. The panel chair asked which information had been contradictory. The advocate referred to the August draft, the Old West Hall booking, and informal student reports. Then the faculty lawyer displayed the 3 current notices side by side. Same date, same time, same building, same room. Where's the contradiction? He asked. The advocate shifted to a different argument. Serena had relied on me as the cohort's established timetable organizer, and my sudden refusal to share information had destabilized the group. Hearing my boundary described as an operational failure was so absurd that I almost laughed. Serena finally looked at me. Her expression was calm, even wounded. The chair asked whether I had ever accepted an official role. I said no. Had the faculty instructed students to rely on me?
No.
Had I told students the assessment was at West Hall?
No.
Had I concealed the correct details?
No.
I described every warning I had given, including the photograph from East Clinical and the calls telling students to leave. Serena's advocate then mentioned my approved exam adjustment and suggested that I was unusually sensitive about timetable sharing because of personal circumstances. The room changed. The faculty lawyer objected immediately, but the damage was familiar. Once again, private information exposed because Serena believed it could be useful. The panel chair asked how the advocate knew about the adjustment. Serena whispered something. Her advocate stopped speaking. I realized Serena had included the old, uncropped screenshot in her defense materials. Even while arguing that my refusal had caused harm, she was proving exactly why I had refused. The chair ordered the medical information removed from the record and asked Serena directly whether she understood that she had circulated protected personal data without permission. Serena's composure fractured. It was already public within the cohort, she said. I answered before anyone could stop me. Because you made it public. The chair warned me to speak only when questioned, but her tone was not unkind. Serena began crying then, not quietly, but with the sudden force of someone who had been holding tears ready for the moment strategy required them. She said she had been overwhelmed, that her mother expected perfect grades, that she had failed the assessment's practice component, and that she believed the cohort deserved more preparation time. For a few seconds, I felt the room soften. Then the faculty lawyer asked why she had not requested an extension through proper channels. Serena said one student's request would have been denied. But 63 students, he asked. She did not answer. He showed a recovered message she had sent to a friend outside the university. If the whole year misses it, they have to reschedule. They can't fail everyone. The message was dated Monday night, before she posted the outdated schedule. Another read. Elise won't share hers, so I can make it look like nobody knew. I had not seen that message before. My skin went cold. Until then, a small part of me had wondered whether Serena's plan had grown gradually from panic. It had not. My boundary had not confused her. It had inspired her cover story. She intended to use my refusal as the missing link between clear official notices and a manufactured mass mistake. When the panel asked whether she regretted her actions, Serena looked at me and said, I regret that some people abandoned the group. Priya, who was waiting outside to testify next, heard about that answer later and said it revealed everything. Serena did not believe she had led anyone into danger. She believed they had failed her by escaping it. The faculty did not surrender, but it also did not destroy 63 careers. Students who could demonstrate they had been actively misled were offered a supplementary assessment with a capped maximum grade. Students who had helped distribute the false information faced separate academic integrity reviews. Those who had threatened others into staying at West Hall lost placement priority. Priya and Daniel were allowed to sit the supplementary because their messages showed they had questioned the misinformation and attempted to leave. Marcus received a formal warning for deleting official notices from the shared cohort drive. Serena was suspended from representative duties immediately, removed from placement, and referred to a disciplinary panel for falsifying university communication, coercing students, and interfering with an assessment. She also failed the unit. The university made one point unmistakably clear: no student was responsible for distributing another student's private timetable. When that sentence appeared in the faculty decision, I read it 4 times. It was the first official acknowledgement that my boundary had been reasonable from the beginning. Yet relief did not arrive cleanly. I had scored 94 on the assessment, the highest mark in the cohort, but no one congratulated me. Every conversation carried the weight of what had happened. In tutorials, people lowered their voices when I entered. Some were ashamed. Some resented me because I had passed while they faced a capped grade. A few still believed I could have prevented everything by giving Serena the screenshot she demanded. 2 weeks later, Serena found me outside the library. She looked smaller without the crowd that usually formed around her, but her voice retained its old certainty. "You won," she said. I closed my laptop. This was not a competition. She laughed once. "You got the top mark." I lost placement. Everyone thinks I'm insane. Sounds like a win. I told her she had lied to 63 people. She stepped closer. Because I knew the faculty would give us another attempt if enough people missed it. I was right. They gave some students another attempt. I said. "You failed." Her mouth tightened. "Only because you made it personal." I reminded her that she had created a fake email. I created leverage. She said the word proudly, and that frightened me more than an apology would have. In Serena's mind, rules were not structures. They were opponents. People were not classmates. They were numbers large enough to force an outcome. She sat beside me without permission. "Do you know why they followed me instead of you?" she asked. "Because you make people feel stupid. Check your portal. Read the email. Verify the source. You always sound like you're testing them. I make them feel safe." I looked at her for a long moment. "You made them feel safe while walking them toward a locked door." Her face hardened. "And you watched." "No," I said. "I warned them until you removed me from the chat." She stood. "You could have shared the timetable." I answered. "You could have told the truth." For once, she had no final line. She walked away before I did. The disciplinary panel released its decision near the end of semester. Serena was suspended for 1 academic year. She appealed, claiming disproportionate punishment and emotional distress, but the appeal failed. The faculty introduced new rules requiring assessment notices to appear in a dedicated dashboard, and student representatives were prohibited from presenting unofficial scheduling summaries as confirmed information. More surprisingly, the university invited me to join a working group on timetable privacy and communication. My first instinct was to decline. I had spent months trying to stop being responsible for everyone's schedule. Joining a committee about schedules felt like a cosmic joke. Priya convinced me to attend one meeting. There, I learned that the system displayed adjustment codes, placement locations, and other personal details in ways students could accidentally reveal when sharing screenshots. The university had known this was a risk, but had never prioritized it. I showed them how a single cropped image had exposed my information. By the next semester, the portal included a Share Event Only button that generated a clean card containing the time, location, and official link without personal data. It was a small change, but it mattered. Boundaries are often treated as selfish until institutions discover they can be designed into a button. The supplementary assessment took place in January. This time, every eligible student arrived more than an hour early. They checked the room number on the portal, the email, the sign, and the invigilator's clipboard. No one asked me where to go. I sat in the cafe across from East Clinical and watched them gather with printed confirmations in their hands. Priya came over before entering. "I passed the practice exam," she said. "And I checked the venue 12 times." I smiled. "Only 12. She laughed, then became serious. "I'm sorry I doubted you." I told her she had already apologized. "I know," she said. "But I'm not apologizing for choosing wrong anymore. I'm apologizing for expecting you to save me from my choice." That was the first apology that did not ask me to carry anything afterward. Daniel joined us and showed me a folder labeled Official Sources Only. He said half the cohort had copied his system. I almost told him that color-coding the tabs would help, then stopped myself. They did not need another calendar girl. They needed habits. By the beginning of the new academic year, the story had become campus legend. First years whispered that an entire cohort once missed a final because one student refused to share her timetable. That version was simpler, sharper, and completely wrong. It made me sound powerful enough to control 63 people by withholding a screenshot. Sometimes I corrected the story. Usually I did not. People prefer myths that turn systemic failures into one dramatic choice. The truth was less convenient. Every student had received the correct information. A trusted leader had manufactured doubt. A crowd had chosen belonging over verification, and I had finally refused to accept responsibility for decisions that were not mine. I was not reborn because I became colder. I was reborn because I stopped confusing constant availability with kindness. I still helped classmates. I shared official links. I explained difficult material. I reminded friends about deadlines when they asked respectfully. But I no longer answered messages that began with urgency and ended with blame. I no longer allowed other people's lack of preparation to become an emergency inside my body. Months later, on the morning of our first placement briefing, I entered the lecture theater and found 60 students already seated. A notice on the screen displayed the schedule, check-in process, and room changes. Someone behind me asked, "Elise, is this definitely the right place?" The old instinct rose instantly. I wanted to open my planner, verify the time, and reassure them. Instead, I pointed to the official notice.
Check the source, I said.
The student laughed nervously, then took out her phone and checked.
Yes, she said.
It matches.
Good. You sat beside Priya.
She nudged me and whispered, "Calendar girl is dead." I looked around the room. Students were comparing official emails, not rumors. They were asking staff questions directly. They were taking responsibility for their own schedules. "No," I whispered back. She just stopped working for free. At exactly 9, the doors closed. Every seat was filled. My timetable remained folded inside my bag, private and untouched, where it belonged.